Hi there, my name is Corey Tyndall and today I'll be demonstrating how to build a computer step by step. Here I have all the required components to build a computer especially for gaming. Note here that there is only one hard drive needed and a sound card and GPU are not required but optional. Once you have taken all of your components out of their respective packaging, the first thing you want to do is install the CPU or Central Processing Unit. CPU manufacturers have made it easy for you to install the CPU by orienting them asymmetrically so that it will only fit in the CPU socket one way. Once your CPU is in your CPU socket, the next thing we'll want to do is latch it down. There should be an arm on the side of the metal plating that holds your CPU down. Push this lever underneath that arm to secure your CPU. Next, we will apply a pea-sized amount of thermal paste on top of the CPU. This grease, or paste, helps dissipate heat from the CPU into the CPU cooler by increasing the conductivity between the CPU and the CPU cooler. Next, I will install my CPU cooler. I'm not going to show the step-by-step instructions for this component because their installation processes vary, and you should just follow the instruction manual that comes with the cooler. Now, we will install the RAM onto the motherboard. This component is also asymmetrical so that it only fits in the RAM slots one way. You simply push the RAM down to the socket until the levers on either side of the RAM click into the RAM socket. Don't be afraid to apply a little pressure when pushing the RAM sticks into their sockets. If it looks like your RAM is all the way in and the levers are not at a 90-degree angle, you can push the RAM down slightly on that side and push the lever in manually. Remove the thumb screws from the back of your computer case to remove the cover. There are two thumb screws on either side of the case located at the top and the bottom at the back of the computer case. Now you want to install standoff screws to make sure your motherboard is not directly touching the computer case. This prevents electrical shorts which can fry your motherboard or CPU. There's usually a guide in your computer case telling you which holes are associated with what form factor of motherboard you have. Your motherboard will come with a backplate that is placed in a slot at the back of your computer. This is where all the connections from the motherboard will come from. This fits into that slot by pressure alone, so make sure it's in all the way. Now, place the motherboard over the standoffs and line it up with the backplate as well. Once you see the screw holes in the standoffs, it's time to screw in the motherboard. Next, it is time to install the front panel headers. This is what makes the connection between the power button and other various ports such as USB, eSATA, headphone, and microphone port on the front panel of your computer case. The colored wire indicates the positive connector and the white or black wire indicates the minus connector. Where these connectors are placed on the front panel header varies from motherboard to motherboard, so this is where you utilize the instruction manual that came with your motherboard. Next, it is time to install your optical drive and hard drives. The optical drive goes through the front of the case. In order to remove this mesh slot, I remove the face of the computer. To remove the face of the case, there's usually an open slot at the bottom of the face where you can pull it off. Slide the drive all the way in until it's flush with the front of the case. Since my case is a toolless case, you need to lock in your optical drive. You do this by pressing forward on the slider until you hear a click or the drive feels secure. Next, place your hard drives into their 3.5-inch slots. My computer case came with these adapters with rivets that fit into the screw holes of the hard drives. These allow for toolless installation. I like to orient my hard drives such that the connectors on the hard drive are facing the other side of the computer so that I can hide their cables for a cleaner look. Now it is time to install your power supply. This is the component that will power all other components in your computer. There will be 4 screw holes on the back of the computer case that allow you to attach your power supply securely. Make sure that you place the fan face down so that it blows hot air through the bottom of your computer. There are 2 power connections on the motherboard. One is a 4-pin or 8-pin for larger boards, and a 24-pin connection that will be supplied from your PSU. These are the SATA ports for your optical drives and hard drives. Here is your PCIe 16.0 slot, which is for graphics cards. These 2 red ports are for attaching other types of add-on cards that perform various functions. There's a clip on the 24-pin connector that slides over a tooth on the 24-pin socket. Once again, these cables are made so that they only go in one way. Now it's time to connect your 4-pin power connection to your motherboard. My power supply came with an 8-pin connection that can split into 2 4-pins respectively. The SATA ports on this motherboard are laid out in a terrible manner. My graphics card will cover up 2 of those SATA ports so that I can't use them. However, I get around this by using one 90-degree angle SATA connector. One way to get around this is by purchasing a cheap SATA controller that fits into one of your expansion slots. I'll feed this SATA cable into the back of the computer for better cable management. To access the cables on the back side of your motherboard, slide the other side of the computer case off. Now you can run wires behind here to maximize airflow in your case. Once your hard drives are connected with motherboard SATA cables, it is time to power each of these devices using the SATA power cord that comes out of your PSU. Since I forgot to plug in all of the front panel connections, I'll do that now. These front panel ports will have one of their 10 pins blocked off so that it will only fit onto one header. Each header is labeled on the motherboard and is also shown in your instruction manual of your motherboard. Make sure your USB header and HD audio connector are plugged into your motherboard. Next, it's time to install the graphics card. Make sure the GPU can be seated by clearing any wires out of the way. There's a hook at the end of the bottom of the GPU that acts as extra security. On the top left of your GPU, there is a hole so that you can screw in your graphics card to securely attach it to your computer case and motherboard. Make sure that the fans on the GPU are clear of any cables. I went in after and removed this white SATA cable out of the way to make sure both fans can spin properly. Now, I'll install my sound card by placing it in the PCI slot. Then, I'm going to attach a screw to this card as well to secure it. Finally, there are two power connections on my GPU that need to be connected. This should be the last step and your computer is ready to be closed up and an OS is ready to be installed.